Okay, today I'm going to show how to install the vertical knee lever on this Mullen guitar. It's a D10. It's upside down, but trust me, it's a D10. Just showing you the inside real quick. Some of the tools you're going to need. You're definitely going to need a screwdriver. You're going to need this tool, which is what you adjust the tuning for the pedals and the knee levers with. There's different configurations of this, but this is the one I have. You need a couple Allen wrenches. These two are 5/64 and 7/64. I keep a Sharpie around because you might have to take out some of the old rods, and I like to mark them so that I know where to put them back in. And you'll need this kit that I got from Mullen. Shout out to them. It has all the parts. I'm not going to go over these parts right now. We'll go through them as we do the install. And to be honest, it's a little intimidating for your first time putting one of these in to see all of these parts. So let's get started. The first thing you need to do is, well, get your steel up on the bench. I'm just using these two boards to mount it so that it doesn't ride against the bench and scratch anything. I also have this rubber mat down here to protect it further. So let's see. We got to figure out where we're gonna place this knee lever. So on this steel, I want to place it between everything's backwards, so I'm trying to think the right order, but between my F lever and the left knee lever right. So left knee lever left, left knee lever right. Pretty standard spot to put it. So we need to look for some space in here where we could do something like that. On these Mullens, you can see the cross rods have drilled holes in this plate here for adding more levers and pedals. And in this case, about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 from the right in the upside down view, there's a nice spot for it. And if we put the lever right about here where that rod would go, there's going to be clearance for this to move. And it looks like a pretty good spot for where my knee would sit. So that's what we're going to choose. So now the first thing that we're going to want to do is we need this little bracket here. And this bracket is going to mount on the closer side of the steel. You can see that the other cross rods are already mounted and they have those brackets. So we need to put this bracket right in here. And conveniently, there are already 2 holes drilled at that location. So it's pretty easy to spot where to put this mount. So the top, there are 2 screw holes, and it's really easy to get the top one, but the bottom one, it's not so easy. So you might have to take out these rods here, and that's what the Sharpie's for. These rods can be taken out by, there are pins on the back side of each of the rods that clip the rod to the crank, to the lever. And so you have to take those pins out and then remove the rods and move them out of the way. So I just mark them with this little Sharpie so I remember where they go back after mounting it. So I'm going to drill those holes in there, get those screws in, and then show you what that looks like. These pins that connect the rod to the shaft are kind of hard to get free, so I recommend taking your Allen wrench and just inserting it here, and you can usually pull them out that way. All right, now we have that mounting bracket installed, and we now need to put in one of these grommets into the back plate and into the front plate. These are going to hold the cross rod. So the cross rod comes like this. It's 2 pieces, and that 2-piece part is very nice because then you can actually get this thing in here. As you can see, there'd be no other way to get this thing in here without taking it in half. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate the 2 pieces. This piece with the screw in it is going to be on this side. The piece without the screw on it is going to be on this side. And this can be quite a chore to fish this in here. As you can see, it's not exactly the easiest thing in the world to get in here. So the best thing to do is to take off some of the pull rods so that it'll slide in there. I'm going to do that in just a second. All right, now that I got those rods out of the way, this should slide in there pretty easily. This is going to go into that plastic grommet that we installed earlier. Now the alignment of this is important. We want the screw part facing up. So, which means that this part needs to be facing down. It's pretty obvious when you see it. Then we get this other piece in here, insert that into the grommet. Maybe you have to use a little persuasion to get that in there. But once that's in there, it should fit together nicely. And we forgot a step. So don't forget, before putting on the grommet, there's a little collar that holds the cross rod in place. So you want to put this on there first. And you also want this to be facing up as well so that you can get to it when you want to tighten it down. So it should be facing up, just like to match the other end. Now the 2 pieces are joined. We've got this tiny screw that's going to hold the 2 pieces of the rod together. And now we just need to tighten that down. And all right, now we should have one solid piece of rod going across there. Okay, now we're going to take this piece here, which prevents the cross rod from going too far back that way and pushing the push rod out down by the changer. We're going to install that. As with everything on this, it's a tight fit, so it might take a little finagling to get this in here, but it can be done. Once that piece is in there, you're just going to want to tighten it down with this set screw. Okay, now we'll install these pieces here. These connect the rods to the cross shaft. So on this change, I'm using a vertical knee lever to lower B to B flat. And so I know that that's string 10 and 5 on my E9 neck. So this is just about where a good position would be for string 10. And then this is a good position right about here. for string 5. So after we have those on, we need to tighten down those set screws that are in there so that these stay in place. And as you can see, this will now move the cross shaft. Now we can install the actual lever itself. For that, you're going to need a few pieces. You need the lever bar, its mount, and a nut, and this screw. All right, so the way this fits together is you insert the lever into the mount like this. We put the screw through eventually, and we put this nut on the back. I am not going to tighten it down for the moment. You would just because we're getting a rough fit at this time. And then we're going to put the knee lever attached to the cross rod. Now, to get the angle you want, you're going to need to adjust that too at some point. I've adjusted it so that it's hanging pretty low, but there's just a set screw in the bottom of the rod, which you can adjust that to your preference. I believe there's also an adapter that will even extend this further if need be. All right, so once that's in there, we want to screw it in place with these set screws that are on the mount, and they will eventually tighten. You'll be able to feel them tighten. And you just want to check to make sure that you've got clearance and you're not hitting any of the other components that's underneath here. And you can now see what that backstop does. It stops the rod from going too far backwards and keeps the knee lever in position. All right, now we want to mount this piece, which is going to stop the lever from going too far in this direction. And so I've mounted that over the adjacent cross rod. That just takes 2 screws, screw that in. Now that mount's screwed in, you can see that that set screw there is going to stop this from going too far in that direction. We won't bother adjusting it at this point, but you're going to have to adjust it once the rods are on so that it travels the right distance. All right, now for the rods themselves. So these rods come with 2 pieces, well, 3 pieces, the rods themselves. And we also have this metal piece which slides on the end and provides a spacer. And then obviously these little plastic pieces, which is what you insert into your tuning tool to adjust. Those need to go on as well. So we put them through the holes in the changer that are actually going to do the pulling. And this one's going to go about here. And this one's going to go about here. All right. And then we can see what that looks like down at the changer end. So down at the changer, those rods, there's the 10th string. And here's the 5th string. So it's hard to see in this shot, but on the changer end, there's a set of 3 holes and a set of 2 holes. The top 2 holes in this view will lower the strings, and the bottom 3 will raise the strings. So depending on what your change is, you need to pick the appropriate hole. So now that we've got those through, we're gonna put on the metal sleeve spacer first, and then we'll put on these plastic adjusters. They don't need to be all the way on yet. We can adjust them, fine, adjust them later. All right, with those in place, we'll come back to the rod connection on this side. We'll connect these rods with these little pins. Now, I don't know if it matters which hole it goes into, but I try to make the connection as straight as possible. So that it doesn't rub on anything else and interfere with anything else. Okay, so now you can see that this knee lever is actually moving these springs, at least for the 5th string. The other one probably isn't tight enough to pull the 10th string, so let me tighten that. Okay, now both springs are moving in response to that. So now is where the fine tuning comes in. You're going to need to tighten down this vertical lever. You're going to need to find this, how far this should be in order to get the correct amount of travel. And you're going to want to tune, obviously at the very end, tune those 2 strings. Well, that's basically it. Just install the vertical knee lever. Hopefully this helps somebody.